there's a reckoning inside the Democratic Party. Kamala Harris promised us freedom. Well, she delivered to us because now we're free from having to run anything in Washington, D.C. That's not what we were signing up for. It's what we got.
Former communist and Obama administration official and CNN pundit Van Jones. Yeah, you got freedom. Freedom from responsibility, adult responsibilities in Washington. He's angry about it. He might have to set up a gulag. He can get John Brennan to join him, since John Brennan voted for the Communist Party candidate for president, and Barack Obama made him CIA director. And then he tampered in our presidential election. What do we build penitentiaries for, anyway? Well, I've still got a bunch of stuff to get to, but I want to introduce you to someone, and I want to let him share his take on the new Department of Justice Inspector General report that came out yesterday, which makes it clear that there were 26 at least FBI confidential informants in the crowd during the riot on Capitol Hill on January 6th of 2021. And there have been questions raised ever since. Well, what was the government involved? What was the FBI involvement? Were there any FBI agents there? What about Ray Epps? Was Ray Epps the employee of the FBI? Was he a confidential human informant? And it turns out CNN is saying their headlines all over the place. Oh, there were no FBI undercover agents at the January 6th Capitol riot. Okay, but there were 26 FBI confidential human informants, as opposed to the non-human informants, the mechanical informants or something like that. We got to try to update you on the drones, too, because it's becoming War of the Worlds out there all over the place. But the headline at CNN, no undercover FBI agents were at the January 6th U.S. Capitol riot, Watchdog report says, when in reality there were 26 employees of the FBI because they're paid confidential human informants as opposed to the non-human informants. Isn't that amazing? And joining us now is Stephen Sund. And Stephen Sund was the chief of the U.S. Capitol Police Department on January 6, 2021. Stephen Sund was not treated fairly, let's say, to be generous, by Nancy Pelosi and then of course, the corrupt, phony Democrat Party news media. Steve Sund also has a great book, Courage Under Fire. Courage Under Fire is the name of the book. Under Siege and Outnumbered. Under Siege and Outnumbered 58-1 on January 6th. And the cover art on the book is Police Chief Sund and the mayhem on the balustrade west front of the Capitol on January 6th. And Steve Sund has called in, and Stephen Sund joining us now on the Chris Plant Show. Steve Sund, thanks for joining us.
Hey, good morning, Chris. I certainly appreciate you having me on, and appreciate you mentioned the book. Since you mentioned, I'll just give a quick shout out to the work of the current January 6th committee, Barry Loudermilk. They're doing some great work. I hope they continue it into the next the 18th Congress. Sorry. So hopefully they can continue the work, and he actually has referred to the book as what should be the after action of January 6th. But no, thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, you bet. And I should say, in the interest of full disclosure, that Steve and I know each other, and we've eaten food together, and we've had a beer together once or twice. And Steve's a great guy and a regular guy and a patriotic American and wonderful. And thank you for calling in. And the book is a great book, Courage Under Fire, the definitive account from inside the Capitol on January 6th. Wonderful, wonderful. And when this Department of Justice Inspector General report came out yesterday, and we're told, oh, yeah, by the way, 4 years later, there were 26, no fewer than 26, FBI only. Forget about any other government agency, whether it's intelligence agencies or the Department of Homeland Security or Nancy Pelosi's office, whether there are any agitators in there. What's your take? You're an adult. You're a career police officer, police chief, and U.S. Capitol Police Chief. What's your take on this Department of Justice Inspector General report?
It's interesting because I wrote about people being in the crowd, possible informants or agents 2 years ago. So it took a long time to kind of get this out. It's interesting. I'll take a couple of stabs at the report. So the DOJ, if you go onto their website, it lists a couple of the overviews of the report. And one of the first one is it says the FBI took significant and appropriate steps in advance of January 6th to prepare in a supportive role. They're seeing their only mission here is a supportive role. They actually have a primary role. If you look at the Attorney General's guidelines for domestic FBI operations, they're the primary agency. If they ever identify either an event like the Electoral College on January 6, 2021, or a location like the United States Capitol that may be receiving significant threats, they're supposed to start a complete assessment. They're supposed to be the leader in intelligence gathering. Here you have the DOJ IG saying they're only in a supportive role. I think we all just need to realize who the IG works for. That kind of reduced a little bit of confidence in them there. But the other thing is...
Well, he works for Merrick Garland, the Attorney General of the United States, who thinks he's a Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, when you look at the 26 confidential human sources, and it's kind of shocking. Well, let me take you back to a February 23. Government Accountability Office did a report to Congress. And at that time, they said as of December 29th, 2020 through January 6, 2021, the FBI was tracked domestic terrorist subjects that were traveling to Washington, D.C. and they developed reports related to January 6th. And as of January 6th, the FBI noted that they were tracking 18 domestic terrorist subjects that were coming to Washington, D.C. Now, I'm not really sure who they're tracking them with. If it's going to be the cleaning crew or something. But usually if you think you have domestic terrorist subjects coming in, think about that. That report was written almost 2 years ago. And they're already talking about the FBI was tracking these resources. So, I think there's probably more to come out on this. I'm glad they actually admitted to having the number of confidential human sources in there. I think that's a step in the right direction. 11 of them in restricted areas and 3 of them inside the building. It's my understanding none of them have been charged so far.
Right.
You had a good introduction coming into this. It'd be interesting to find out if Mr. Epps' name is on that list.
Right.
But we shall.
Yeah, is Ray Epps' name on the list of the 26 confidential human sources in the employ of the FBI, getting paychecks from the FBI? And they say that they only asked 3 of them to be there, like that somehow mitigates. But at the same time, 23 additional confidential human sources in the employ of the FBI showed up on their own accord without being asked by the FBI. What does that tell us?
Well, I think what people miss is if you look into the report, it says that they had been receiving information from the various field offices from these other 23 confidential human sources. So the human sources had been providing them January 6 information and went and allegedly, according to the report, they attended the January 6 event on their own. But the FBI had already been having engagement with them specifically about January 6.
And what should we, as taxpayers, as Americans who don't believe anything our government tells us anymore, what should we take away from this?
Again, I think it all goes to transparency in the investigation. And again, bring up the current January 6th committee. They've received a lot of criticism over, being transparent, putting a lot of the videos out there. I think it's important to be transparent. I mean, when you look at it, you'd expect that from any civilian law enforcement chief of police, and we'd expect it from our federal agencies as well. I don't think, I think this report is a start, but I don't think this report really carries the water.
Right.
Questions.
Yeah, I think it raises more questions than it actually answers, and I've got 100 questions about what role these 26 people played, the 3 that went inside, why nobody was charged with crimes. What did they say while they were there? Was Ray Epps one of the 26? Is Ray Epps still a confidential human source? Was he paid money by the FBI? And also, Steve, should we be curious as to whether other federal law enforcement agencies had people in there, and maybe even the D.C. police may have had their own confidential sources in the crowd?
I think those are all questions that still probably need to be answered. I mean, you have DHS. I think if they look at a number of the IG reports and GAO reports that go back, I think GAO did a couple different reports that indicated both DHS, FBI were conducting investigations into this. But I wouldn't be surprised if you have what is it, Homeland Security Investigations, HSI, may also have some resources out there, but wouldn't be surprised.
So they could have 26 more or 50 more for all we know, but we don't have the answer to that question.
So we'll maybe have to wait for another couple of years for another IG.
Right. I got to tell you, I just my government is a great disappointment to me these days, and your great book, Courage Under Fire, definitive account inside the Capitol, January 6th, and I believe you updated, right?
Yeah, the paperback actually just came out a couple of days ago on December 3rd. That's when I changed the subtitle from Under Siege to the definitive account after receiving a couple of key endorsements, and one from Barry Loudermilk, one a couple of different folks out there, Tucker Carlson. This is just all the information I put in there. I'm going to back up everything I say. I'm not going to come out there and feed you some BS. Everything in there is backed up with the truth and stood the test of time. I'm just waiting for more other agencies to get in line and start giving American people the truth they deserve.
How many decades should we expect that to take? And I got to tell you, we got this all these drones flying all over the place, and our government is full of hooey. They put Cobble Kirby out there yesterday to spin and peddle BS, and I got to tell you, as a guy who's been covering this town for a long time, I've never seen such a bunch of liars as we've got on our hands today. It's extraordinary. What about you?
Yeah, I think when you see some of the responses, people talking about taking things into their own hands and trying to address this, I think that just speaks to the level of confidence that people have in their elected officials right now with what they're telling them. It's going to be interesting to find out what it is. I tend to wonder right now. You remember in the movie Jaws when you had the kids that put the fin on the back and went out there, and everyone thought they had a big shark, and they went out there. I wonder if right now we're dealing with some people that are actually out there flying their drones just to add some additional stuff to freak people out. Right. But who knows? That does definitely seem a little odd. Hopefully we're going to get some answers soon.
Yeah, hopefully. And I mean, we're talking about drones the size of pickup trucks and stuff. I don't know what all this is about, but our government is not doing a very good job. Steve Sund, Courage Under Fire, police chief, U.S. Capitol Police on January 6th. And you were then betrayed and screwed by Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, when you look at everything that went on, she went on national TV the very next day, made a couple of statements, said I'd never talked to her. I talked to her 3 times, called for her resignation when it was actually her sergeant at arms that had denied my request for the National Guard twice on January 3rd, and then for 71 minutes while we were under attack on January 6th. Only then to have to then fight with the Pentagon to get them to try and deploy resources to the Capitol. They were deploying resources to generals' homes, but not to the Capitol, and they arrived after all the fighting was over. So, not a whole lot of faith there. I come from a military family too. I love the men and women of the military, and I know there's a lot of National Guard that got off buses that were extremely pissed and were cut because they're swearing them in. And they were furious with their leaders about the response they had.
And that's in your book, and you're telling you were calling for the National Guard, and Pelosi and her flying monkeys were denying your request for National Guard. They were denying you intelligence that they had available to them about January 6th ahead of time. And it's all in your book, Courage Under Fire, the definitive account from inside the Capitol. Steve Sund, thanks, buddy.
All right, you take care, Chris.
Thanks, you too. Wonderful, wonderful. There are normal people. This is a battle for normal. It's a civilization against the opposite of civilization. And at the Chris Plant Store, we have Remember Normal shirts, great Christmas presents, and Hanukkah presents, and coffee mugs and stuff, too. Steve Sund, good man. You know that the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier has finally arrived, and it builds on the incredible success of the previous generations of Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifiers, and they earned thousands of 5-star reviews on Al Gore's amazing internet. The new Thunderstorm uses 2 different technologies that studies have shown help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria and viruses, remove dust, pet dander, smoke, all kinds of stuff from the air that you don't want to be breathing. And it helps get rid of any odor. No filters required to replace over and over again. No, sir. One little unit you can hold in your hand. It's this big. The Thunderstorm will help you get rid of any stinky smell guaranteed. Trash cans, smelly shoes, your teenager's room, left-wing protesters. No match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. And right now, you can save $200 American on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection. You get 3 units. Put one in your basement. Put one in your bedroom. Put one in your kitchen. Any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. Make one a gift. Bring one to the office. All you have to do is go to EdenPureDeals.com and use the discount code Chris3, Chris and the number 3, to save $200 on 3 Eden Pure Thunderstorms, the brand new ones. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is Chris3. Yes, sir. All right, we've got not a lot of time and a lot of stuff to get to. We've got drones. We've got the border. We've got transgender lunatics. We've got a Luigi and drones. There are drones everywhere. Look up in the sky. It's not a bird. It's not a plane. And it's not a getting shut down. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at WashingtonTimes.com/Chris. So Joe Biden pardoned like 1,500 criminals yesterday. Democrats, including a woman Democrat who was the controller in Dixon, Illinois. She embezzled $54 million from the city of Dixon, Illinois. And she's a Democrat, so Joe Biden decided to let her out of prison. Rita Crundwell, convicted of stealing $54 million, had her sentence commuted by Joe Biden. And, you know, the news media is not busy looking at the 1,500 criminals that Joe Biden pardoned. They're downplaying it like it's no big deal. But I've got to say, it opens the door, it opens the gate for President Trump to pardon 1,200 people that have been sent to jail for January 6th. And, you know what, like somebody broke a window. Oh, no. Enrique Tarrio, the racists put in prison a black Cuban American. They gave him 22 years in prison, and he was in a hotel room in Baltimore on January 6th, wasn't even in Washington, much less at the Capitol. But 1,500 Democrat criminals, embezzlers, $54 million. She's like riding horses. She's got a horseback life. She pretended she was a wealthy woman who was just doing this controller job to give back to the community. So she's a liar, a thief, a criminal, an embezzler, stole more than $54 million from the taxpayers there. Joe Biden pardoned her because she's a Democrat and Joe Biden's a criminal too. Now we've got drones, the space invaders attacking America. I actually think the Democrats are behind it because they're the scaly, lizard-like, serpentine space aliens that have invaded Earth, and these are their friends coming to bring them drugs or something. Amazing stuff, but there's so much going on all the time. First of all, I've got to share this story just breaking out of Europe, which is another continent altogether. Pelosi injured in Luxembourg. She's right in the Luxembourg. She got it right in the Luxembourg. The left-wing radicals, the extremists at Politico have the story. Former Speaker Nancy Pelosi suffered an injury and was hospitalized for treatment while traveling in Luxembourg to the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge, in which she participated as a fry cook because she was making pancakes. She wasn't really there. According to spokesperson Ian Krager, In a statement, Nancy Pelosi spokesman Ian Krager, traveling with her in Luxembourg, doubtless on a government jet, said she sustained an injury during an official engagement. I wonder if the Germans shot her or something like that, and was admitted to the hospital for evaluation. The California Democrat, her spokesperson said, is receiving excellent treatment from doctors and medical professionals and continues to work and regrets that she is unable to attend the remainder of the CODEL. They always say CODEL. That's a congressional delegation. A CODEL engagement to honor the courage of our service members during one of the greatest acts of American heroism in our nation's history. Now, it's funny that Politico writes a story about Nancy Pelosi, the now former Speaker of the House, who they call the Speaker of the House Emeritus. They don't mention in the story that she's 84 years old. She's an 84-year-old woman. She's traveling part of a congressional delegation, U.S. Air Force jet, no doubt, out of Andrews Air Force Base. So Nancy Pelosi hospitalized in Luxembourg, of all places, there for the 80th anniversary of the Battle of the Bulge. And honestly, she's injured. She's in the hospital, and we wish her the best, and she should probably retire anyway. But that's Nancy Pelosi. That's pretty wacky. Also, and it really just broke. I don't think it's in the news anywhere, but 84-year-old Nancy Pelosi. And they don't explain because it's her own spokesperson, and truth is not their bag. They're not interested in informing the American people. Here is a crazy story out of Washington, D.C., and WUSA Channel 9, the CBS TV station in Washington, has the story. Police find kidnapped man in Northwest D.C., 12 arrested. 12 people kidnapped a man. 12. That's a lot of people. They got to take a bus to the kidnapping. Police say the victim was found with broken zip ties on his arms and legs and had been assaulted as the kidnappers tried to extort money from him for hours. That would involve torture and things. The story broke last night in Washington, D.C. 12 people are facing charges after police found a kidnapping victim Thursday morning while helping another agency search for a wanted man in Northwest Washington, D.C. I'm in Northwest Washington, D.C. right now, work in Northwest Washington, D.C. Both my jobs live in Northwest Washington, D.C., the Northwest Quadrant. Officers were assisting U.S. Marshals in the 4000 block of Kansas Avenue Northwest when they found 13 people inside a home around 6:30 a.m., according to the Metropolitan Police Department. Police then found an injured man with broken zip ties on his arms and legs. The man told police officers he was being held against his will. That's kidnapping. That's home invasion. Investigators said the man had been held at the home since Wednesday evening. For hours, he was allegedly assaulted. That's torture, as the subjects unsuccessfully tried to extort money from him. The man was taken to an area hospital. That'd be the closest would be the Washington Hospital Center, and is expected to survive. While 12 people were arrested, only 33-year-old Davon Patterson has been charged with kidnapping. The other arrests include 31-year-old Dominique Turner, 41-year-old Annette Hawkins, 31-year-old Germonte Crutchfield, 36-year-old Megan Grimberg. Amazing stuff. 41-year-old Davina Johnson, 56-year-old Deshaun Bowman, 39-year-old Michael Davis, 49-year-old Khalil Guy. Also, Moses Williams, Danielle Gardner, and Christopher Dixon. So that's it. The police have not said if the victim knew any of the suspects, before the kidnapping. But it's a home invasion, kidnapping, torture, extortion, 12 criminals. Every day is an IQ test. Pretty amazing story. D.C., our nation's capital. Wah, wah, wah. Isn't that amazing? That's great. Speaking of Democrats, there's another Democrat story out of Michigan, and this is amazing. Michigan University diversity officer fired after saying wealthy and privileged Jews don't need help. Rachel Dawson, she's an African-American woman, a woman of color, a WOC, accused of anti-Semitism, allegedly also said the college was controlled by Jews. Diversity administrator at the University of Michigan has been fired after she allegedly said Jewish students were wealthy and privileged and did not need support. No financial help or paying off loans or what do you call them? Scholarships, things like that, because Jews. So that's pretty amazing. Rachel Dawson, who is in charge of the University of Michigan's multicultural initiatives, also purportedly said the college was controlled by wealthy Jews and that Jewish people have no genetic DNA that would connect them to the land of Israel. She's a Democrat. She's been accused of anti-Semitism, a claim that she denies. And then she accused the Jews of blaming her. That's not amazing. That's just great. Your Democrat Party. The Anti-Defamation League of Michigan said the anti-Semitism not good. I think that's fair enough. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. All right, we've got more. And the drones, a Luigi. You think maybe a Luigi? Oh, let's use that soundbite on a Luigi, because a Luigi, he's in a jail now, and he's no want to be extradited to New York, right? But Luigi was, and I thought this was pretty interesting. I could just poach it and say that, yeah, sure. But let's go to Jim Kavanaugh, on former federal agent, on NBC Fake News, talking about a Luigi Mangione who fled New York with his gun, was arrested in Pennsylvania with his gun, with his backpack, and he was kind of on the run, but he didn't run very far. So former, what was he, an ATF agent, I believe. And he said, what do you think about a Luigi? Where was a Luigi going? And here's what Jim Kavanaugh said.
I don't think this was just going to be one. I mean, he talks about the parasites and he talks about the healthcare industry writ large. I thought the first morning this happened, when we were discussing it on MS, that don't only assume that Mr. Thompson was the only target. Mr. Thompson could have been the first target. It's still a targeted attack, but that could have been just a first target.
Now, that's true. And he is a former ATF, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives, which, as you know, should be a convenience store and not a federal government agency. But Jim Kavanaugh, former ATF, very good, very valid point. I got to say, I nailed this thing right out of the gate with left-wing, radical, hates the insurance industry. Turns out he was never insured by United Healthcare or any of their affiliates, never a client, never a customer of United Healthcare, no relationship to the company at all, no relationship to the CEO that we know of at this point, but none to the company. And Jim Kavanaugh making a good point. It might have been the beginning of his terror crusade, and it is political terrorism, by the way, endorsed by Elizabeth Warren, endorsed by Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, endorsed by journalists, and I played some of that audio, endorsed by MSNBC. They love murder and mayhem and anarchy because they are the left, and they're not liberals at all. Isn't that amazing? Liberals like the diversity administrator at the University of Michigan, blaming the Jews for everything, like the Democrat in Washington, D.C. on the city council who blames the Rothschild family, a Jewish European banking family, for snow and weather and climate change, and they're doing it to control the cities.
D.C. keep talking about we're a resilient city, and that's a model based off the Rothschilds controlling the climate.
He knows.
To create natural disasters, they can pay for it and own the cities, man. Be careful.
Yeah, be careful, because Trayon White, who was reelected in a landslide in last month's election, just by the way, And he's also under arrest and waiting. He was arrested by federal government because he's taken hundreds of thousands in bribes, according to the federal government. And, all the evidence, the substantial evidence, Trayon White broke D.C. Council rules. But they're not expelling him so far from the D.C. City Council. They might, but not yet. Because he's just, a crazy anti-Semite. The Democrats have made this fashionable, by the way. Yeah, and there are posters in New York and in Washington, D.C. Supporting killing more CEOs. And the big highway sign in Seattle, one CEO down, many more to go. Your Democrat Party. Yeah, let's go to soundbite number one, because the border is completely out of control because of the Democrats. I just saw a lineup on the television over there, a row all the way across the screen of women that have been raped and murdered, and little girls raped and murdered by illegal aliens in the country that the Democrats bought here. Tom Homan is President Trump's incoming border czar, and he's been making the rounds in the media. He was on the Fox News channel this morning talking about the mayor of Chicago, the governor of Illinois. San Diego just voted the city council to reaffirm their status as a sanctuary city. They will not cooperate with the federal government because they love terrorism and murder. Tom Homan.
When it comes to public safety threats, we should be on the same side. And that's why I get so angry. Just Chicago mayor, Governor Pritzker. And San Diego just passed the most damaging laws in San Diego that an illegal alien can get arrested for rape. And they're going to release them to the street rather than call ICE. So, and that's why I'm so angry, because I don't think it's it should be a partisan issue. Republicans, Democrats, Independents. When it comes to public safety, what elected mayor or elected governor doesn't want public safety threats on their communities?
Tom Homan is right. Tom Homan tells the truth. Tom Homan is no nonsense. Let's go, Brandon Johnson, the corrupt mayor of Chicago, and J.B. billionaire Pritzker inherited all his money. Governor of Illinois. They usually end up going to prison for one reason or another. San Diego, disgrace. Tom Homan. And this is a great one. You have mayors who say, I'm going to violate federal law and protect illegal aliens that are here illegally. They're gang members, human traffickers, drug smugglers.
There are laws on the books that we will prosecute. It's 18 U.S.C. 111. Impeding a federal law enforcement officer is a felony. Title 8 United States Code 1324 III. If you knowingly conceal or harbor an illegal alien from ICE, that is a felony. When I was an agent a long time ago, I've arrested U.S. citizens for harboring an alien in their home or place of employment. If I can do it to a citizen, why can't I do it to a politician who's going to actively get in our way, prevent us from doing our job?
100% right. I couldn't agree more. These people, and I've mentioned it before, these people are engaged in criminal conspiracies. The mayors of Chicago and the governor of mayors of Chicago and San Diego and Democrat sanctuary cities, Denver, they're engaged in an ongoing criminal conspiracy. They are breaking federal law, and they tell you to go, pound when you say, hey, you're breaking the law. They could care less. The arrogance of power, Democrat Party power, the corruption, just extraordinary. I've got an update coming up for you on the drone attack on the planet Earth. I think the Democrat Party might be behind it. I mentioned much earlier in the big radio broadcast today that I was getting texts last night from friends in New Jersey. Work in New York, live in New Jersey. And young woman on our text thread. It's a group text thread, a bunch of us. And she texted, there are drones flying over my house right now. Plural, drones flying over my house right now. That was at 9:23 p.m. Amazing. And then another friend on the same thread, living in the area. They are everywhere, apparently, tonight. There's a meteor shower, though. Are we sure it's not that? And then friend John said, I was just playing soccer and 3 flew over the field. 3 drones. Now, This is very, very unusual, and our government is acting like there's nothing to see here. It's quite extraordinary. Now let's go to soundbite number 10. Cobble Kirby came out at the White House last night. He's a big liar. That's why they call him Cobble Kirby. He's our own Baghdad Bob, our Axis Sally, our, Tokyo Rose. And Cobble Kirby asked, hey, what about all these drones all over the place that are doing really crazy things? And they're huge, and they're flying in groups, and it's been 4 weeks now, and U.S. airspace, and why don't you guys tell us something about it?
We have no evidence at this time that the reported drone sightings pose a national security or a public safety threat, or have a foreign nexus. The Department of Homeland Security and the FBI are investigating these sightings. It appears that many of the reported sightings are actually manned aircraft that are being operated lawfully.
Many of the reported sightings. All right, well, that's fine and probably true. I saw a video last night. People were showing it looked like a small plane flying, but that's not what we're talking about, because we've seen, obviously, there are small planes flying around. But now that they've whipped everybody into a frenzy by not behaving as responsible adults, now people are saying, what's that? It's a bird. It's a plane. It's, and it's crazy. Cobble Kirby. He said, we're concerned. We're with the Union of Concerned People.
I understand why people would be looking at this and being concerned about it. We're concerned about it too. We haven't seen any indication thus far that there's a public safety risk, and we haven't seen.
Government know what they are.
We are still investigating this. I can't tell you definitively. I cannot characterize for you definitively what these sightings are. I can just go back to what I said at the opening. We've looked at the imagery.
And it was very strange. Then Kevin Bacon came running into the briefing room.
Remain calm. All is well. All is well.
There is nothing to be concerned about, nothing whatsoever. Even Da Nang Dick, Democrat Senator Richard Blumenthal, who claimed repeatedly that he served in Vietnam when he never did. And he's a Democrat. Even he is scratching his pointed little head.
We should be doing some very urgent intelligence analysis and take them out of the skies, especially if they're flying over airports or military bases. We should be shot down if necessary, because they're flying over sensitive areas, whether it's planes that may be jeopardized or security at military bases.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. I can't get to the rest of the audio that I have, but a sheriff in New Jersey, Sean Golden, said they've seen hundreds of these things. They've had hundreds of reports over the Picatinny Arsenal, a sensitive military base, a naval weapons station, over power stations, sophisticated movements.